Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. So tonight we are going to kind of do a week 3 recap, and then we're going to start talking about the reintroduction process. So I'm going to walk you through how that works, what to expect, the kind of things that you want to be documenting, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to pull up the document for you now. Okay, so this is page. We're starting on page 13, on the bottom of page 13. So most of you are probably either in the middle of or approaching the end of week 3. So hopefully you guys have started to see some improvements. That looks different for everyone, but most people report things like better energy levels, better sleep, better mental focus, maybe digestive improvements. It just really depends on the person and kind of where you were when this all started. Hopefully you've also been noticing some changes to your taste buds. For example, fruit is tasting nice and sweet to you now, that sort of thing. Feeling more satisfied with your meals, hopefully. So one thing that I want to point out, it doesn't mean, the whole point of this was to try to reduce the inflammation in our body by eliminating certain foods that are potentially inflammatory. So you don't want to undo all of it by just jumping back right into what you were doing. So this is the whole point of the reintroduction process, to help you transition back into a more varied diet, but also to help you see if there are any particular foods that are possibly causing problems for you. So that's going to look different for every person here, probably. But it's also important to keep in mind that, a lot of this, the inflammation in our bodies, for example, builds up over time. So it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen in 21 days. So there is a chance that it could take longer than this to recover, or to improve. So if it's after at this point at week 3 and you don't feel a whole lot different, you don't feel like any real improvements have come up, you may want to give it a little more time. You may want to stay on it. Or once you go through your reintroductions, kind of generally follow the same type of plan, with the addition of maybe some foods that you tried that you did not seem to have any negative responses to. So again, this is going to look different for everyone, but I just wanted to throw that out there, that if you feel like you need to keep going, you can give it another week or two, or again, you can kind of come back to it once you've completed your reintroductions and sort of follow a similar type of diet pattern. So, okay, so before everybody starts their reintroduction, I do want them to fill out the symptom spreadsheet, which is below. It's this checklist here. Okay, so I want everyone to do this before they start the reintroduction. You're going to fill out the before column, okay? And then this is also going to help you see the changes that are occurring with your reintroduction. Okay, so again, you can continue if you want, or if you're ready at the end of the 21-day period to start reintroduction, this is what you're going to follow here. Okay, so it's very important that you will need to kind of follow this protocol, because if you're introducing things too close together, it's going to confuse the results. You're not going to know what you're reacting to, because sometimes food reactions are not immediate. Sometimes it can take a few hours. Sometimes it can take 24 hours. So you really have to know what's what. Okay. Now, if you already know that there's a food that bothers you, for example, if you already know that dairy is a problem for you, I wouldn't necessarily even try to reintroduce it. You can. Just to see if this was enough to sort of calm down your system. But like, for example, this is not going to cure lactose intolerance. Like if you were lactose intolerant before, you're still going to be now. All right. So I just want everyone to have kind of a realistic expectation of what that will look like. So don't reintroduce the food if you know you're going to have a negative reaction. Dairy, you know, there's a big spectrum there. So if you, for example, have problems with milk and maybe cheeses, then maybe you just try yogurt and maybe like some lactose-free cottage cheese, you know, things like that. So just be aware of what your existing trigger foods are. Okay. So again, you don't want to just be like, all right, cool, that's it, I'm done, and then jump right back to how you were eating before. All right. Because you might have an even more dramatic response than you did before, since you've kind of eliminated all the antibodies and everything out of your body. So but basically the way this is going to work is you're going to do a different food group every 3 days. So you really need to be journaling this. I mentioned this on day 1, that you need to be recording what you try on what day, and then any potential symptoms that you have. Okay, so again, it can take, depending on the food, depending on the person, you might feel something 5 minutes later. It might take 2 or 3 days. So that's really why you need that 3-day spacing. And this can be anything. This can be digestive disruption. This could be joint pain. You could get headaches. You could get reflux. I mean, it's any number of things. So don't assume that it isn't related if the thing has never happened before. Like if you're not prone to getting headaches, let's say you reintroduce gluten and you get a headache. Okay, well, maybe that's the gluten. Okay, so make sure that you record everything. Even if it doesn't seem like it's related, it very well could be. As I mentioned before, there are things that our body will do to tell us that it doesn't like something, and it may be a little bit outside of, you know, it won't always be a digestive symptom, for example. Like it's not always going to just be an upset stomach or bloating or gas or something. It could be in our head or in our joints or in our skin. Okay, so just be aware that it could come from any system, basically, of the body.
Just make,
You
I'm sorry, Jean. Just make sure though that you eat not on that one day, not for the 3 days. You're gonna eat that new food on that one day, and then day 2 and 3 resort back to your
Yeah,
basic
yeah,
diet.
I was getting to that. Um, so another thing that you can do to monitor is you can weigh yourself daily, because inflammation will cause you to retain fluid. So don't take it as a specific measure of, oh, I'm gaining or losing weight, because you don't gain and lose fat in a day's time like that, but you could retain fluid. So that's something else you can add to your tracking if you want. Okay, so like Connie said, you're going to eat the food that one day. You're going to eat a few servings of it. You need to have a good amount of it to try to elicit the reaction. Okay, so day 1 is dairy. So basically you're still following the detox diet with the exception of the dairy products. So what I would do is spread them out throughout the day. Have one serving at breakfast, have one serving at lunch, and have something with afternoon snack or dinner. Okay, so 2 to 3 servings. Again, if you have an immediate reaction, that's probably an allergic response. Immediate reactions tend to be an allergy thing or a histamine reaction of some sort. Your immune system is like, nope, 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 don't like this. So just don't continue doing the thing. Okay, so if you have some Greek yogurt at breakfast, for example, and 20 minutes, 30 minutes later, you feel sick, then you don't continue the trial. You don't eat any dairy for the rest of that period. Okay, and you may need to wait longer. You know, you can come back to the original food again at the end if you want to, like once everything else has been tried, just to make sure. I mean, a good scientist always tests their results more than once. So if you're not sure, you can always come back at the end and try it again. But again, after that day 1 of eating dairy, you do not eat dairy again until you've tried all your other things, even if you did fine. Okay, I just want to make sure y'all understand. Okay, so day 4 is going to be gluten containing grains. So again, you're still eating the elimination diet type pattern, but you're going to eat 2 to 3 servings of gluten. This can be anything you want. It can be bread, it can be pasta, it can be barley, it can be flour tortillas. Like it can be anything you want, doesn't matter. But again, spread it out throughout your day. Gluten is definitely one where you tend to see a more delayed response. So gluten, unless you're very gluten sensitive, like me, you may not notice it until the next day. So gluten is a little trickier and you have to just pay attention extra on this. Okay. And then again, and then back to elimination diet for day 6, 5, and 6. And then on day 7, you can try some other grains, which would be non-gluten grains. So this could be rice, this could be corn, this could be millet, oat, gluten-free oats, anything like that is fine. Same deal, spread it throughout the day. So the protocol is always the same. It's just the food is changing that you're going to be trying. And then day 8 and 9, you're back to elimination diet. And then day 10, you can do legumes. So this could be your beans or your peanut butter or something like that. The people who wrote this detox recommend doing peanuts separately. That is totally up to you because peanuts are quite different from a immunity standpoint. Like like if you're allergic to peanuts, that doesn't mean you're allergic to other legumes and beans. So they behave a little differently how they're digested and how the body processes them. So, but that's up to you. Soy you can also do completely separately if you like. I would highly recommend doing whole food soy. So I do like some edamame or tofu rather than something like soybean oil. You don't necessarily need to be eating that anyway. So tofu or tempeh or edamame beans, something of that nature for your soy. So you don't have to do this separately, but it's a good idea just to see if your body responds differently to the different types of legumes. Okay, so that's just a suggestion. And then day 11 and 12, you're either back to elimination diet, so you can try your peanuts on day 13, or now you kind of have a list of what foods you can and can't tolerate, and then you can start eating according to that. If you guys need extra help with this, like if you want to, when you're all done with reintroduction, if you guys want to send me either your symptoms charts or your own, you can just take screenshots of your own journaling that you kept just to help guide you with moving forward with the way that you're going to eat. I'm happy to do that. So feel free to do that. Okay. So caffeine and alcohol, because I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, what about my coffee? When am I getting that back? So, coffee in and of itself is not bad for you, right? Part of the reason we eliminate it from this thing is because number one, breaking the dependency and also giving your nervous system a break so that you're not constantly overstimulating with caffeine. But coffee in moderate amounts is actually good for you as long as it doesn't give you anxiety. So if even 1 cup of coffee after this gives you anxiety, then you're better off to just avoid it. Okay, because then you're increasing your cortisol production, you're depleting your adrenals, and that elevated cortisol will affect your ability to burn fat and regulate your weight, as we talked about before. So the coffee thing is up to you, but just be aware that it needs, if you were a very heavy coffee drinker before this, hopefully this will at least, your tolerance is going to be lower. So hopefully you'll be satisfied with maybe a cup or 2 a day, because you can get some really good antioxidants from coffee. So again, let's try not to go back to dumping a bunch of sugar in there. Maybe that will change the way that you're able to actually drink it. Alcohol in moderation for sure, because again, let's remember alcohol is technically a drug. It's a toxin. There's no benefit in alcohol, even red wine, despite what that old study told us. So be very moderate with your alcohol. You also will probably find you have a lower tolerance for alcohol, which is not a bad thing. So just be kind of cautious with those 2 things in terms of that. And somebody's probably going to ask, when should I reintroduce the coffee? I don't know. There's not really a clear guide on this. I don't know if Connie knows more than I do.
I would just, as it's listed, after all the food, because you don't want to have mixed, a mixture experiment.
Right, right. Although coffee, you're going to have a pretty immediate reaction. Coffee is very seldom a delayed. So like you're going to drink the coffee and then if you're going to get anxiety, that's going to happen like right away. So,
But if
but I
headaches or
agree.
something like that, you don't want to cross that over with the gluten.
Agreed. So probably the best bet would be to just wait until you're done with reintroduction to try coffee. I think that's your safest bet. Just so like Connie said, it doesn't conflate anything that you're doing. Okay, so again, here's the scale, or the chart. So this is what you're going to use. You're going to use this rating scale. And
They
then
should
you're
have
going
done that already. They should have done the before already.
right. Sorry. So this is not for reintroduction. The reintroduction thing, you're doing that yourself. Like that's your own in your own document. So this is before you started the detox. This is after. So you'll do this on about day 21 before you start doing reintroductions. And then you're going to note any differences in any of these particular symptoms. You can also type in your own symptoms. So if there's anything here that isn't listed, you can add that in yourself also.
I found that rank myself a certain way in the before column. And then afterwards, I realized I was completely mistaken. Like I thought, oh yeah, my bowel movements, they're good. Whatever. And then I was like, I didn't know it could be this good.
Right.
So I was
So
like, yeah, that was not accurate.
so it's all relative, right? All right, so there's that. I think, yeah, and this just jumps back to, all your recipes and your sample menu. So, okay, so that's pretty much how you do it. Does it make sense to everybody? Did I explain this correctly? Do you guys understand kind of the reason that we space them out the way that we do, and the fact that in between each introduction, you go back to this. You go back to the what to eat section, just what you've been doing this whole time. Is that clear? Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I was kind of wondering, if I want to skip the gluten, can I make that one my last one? I wouldn't mind trying it just to see,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. Maybe,
Yeah.
I guess.
You do not have to go in that specific order. That's just a suggestion. So yes, if you want to give your body a little more time off the gluten or the dairy or any of those things, yes, you can rearrange the order. That's fine.
There's no
But,
such thing
yeah.
as a gluten deficiency.
What's that, Connie?
There's no such thing as a gluten deficiency.
No, there certainly isn't. Yeah, there's absolutely no need for gluten. It's not like an essential nutrient or anything. So you can go indefinitely without gluten in your life. So yeah, Cindy, take as long as you need to. That's fine.
Another question I had, just like in reintroducing dairy for the cheese, for instance, what about, your cheese may have what do you call it, on a preservative on it or something like that. So then how do you know whether it was the cheese or the preservative?
Oh, that's a good question. So I mean, what I would try to do would be number one, to get organic cheese because there tends to be fewer things added to it. The best way to do it would be to try maybe two different cheeses, one that had the preservative and one that didn't. And then you'll know. So like if let's say at lunchtime you have some cheddar cheese that has something, and then at dinner you have something more like trying to think of a cheese that's typically pretty
I can't think of anything that has an actual preservative. I can think of enzymes or the rennet that they use. be different.
Yeah, but the rennet,
Or
that's
if it's shredded already, if it's shredded, then it is going to have an anti-caking.
right. So I would not do a shredded cheese. I would do like a block cheese or yeah, a block or a slice, something like that. Yeah, because the shredded cheese definitely has silicone and other things in it that keep it from caking, and then they usually put like an anti-molding agent in there as well, which some people do react to because it's technically an antibiotic. So,
And,
yeah. So just
and,
look for cheeses that have as few ingredients as you can find.
and
Okay,
if it
thanks.
says
Good question.
says it's a vegan cheese, it probably has synthetic rennet, and I would avoid that too, just to be.
No, they don't put rennet in there. They don't use that. They use like
A
they use other.
synthetic version, that's what I mean. It's a synthetic version that some people react to. And it would be in a cheese that's labeled vegan so that it's not animal rennet.
No, they don't use even fake rennet. They use totally different things.
That's what I'm saying. It's a version. Synthetic, so it's chemical.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and then there would be no point in doing that anyway because that's not a dairy product. So yeah, don't use vegan substitutes as your test subjects because
Well,
that's a
but some cheeses are dairy, but okay, I get what you're saying. Sometimes they'll put that on there. That's a key to know that it has the.
oh, where it says vegetarian rennet. It'll say vegetarian rennet or something versus I think that's how it's phrased. I can't remember.
Yeah, because I picked it up by accident. I picked up cheese and it was organic even. And then I was like, oh, this isn't cheese.
Yeah, so just yeah, look for something with minimal ingredients, kind of like you would anyway, like that like this whole thing has taught you to look for that. So that yeah, so that hopefully could help eliminate any conflation as far as was it this or was it that?
Well, I noticed you didn't put anything about reintroducing sugar, which I know has no nutritional value and we probably shouldn't have anyway. And I'm not a big sugar person. So should that be something we try to reintroduce to see if anything happens or just because I'm fine with not having it. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, ideally the goal would be to just keep sugar at a minimum. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily think you need to do it as part of the reintroduction process. Um, because sugar is sort of different. Like it's not like dairy or like gluten where there's this like very obvious typically response like physically. So yeah, so ideally the goal would be to just continue to really limit your sugar intake. But if after the if after the reintroductions are all done and you want to have a little something here and there, that's completely fine. I mean, nobody is saying like don't ever enjoy your kid's birthday cake or whatever. Because ideally you will be at a point where you're not really craving it or anything anyway. So yeah, you don't need to do an actual reintroduction of it. Just don't have any of it until you're done with everything.
okay.
Yeah, good question also.
Yes, that was a good spot. We never purposefully reintroduced sugar.
Right. Sue, I know you've done this before. Sue can be really helpful with this too with you guys because she's done this a couple times already. Um, so Sue, if you have any tips for them, I'm sure they'd appreciate it.
So the first time that I did this, as Connie and Jean know, I had a big glass of milk with every meal. I just loved my dairy products. And that was the first thing I was going to reintroduce because I had missed it so much. And oh yeah, that didn't go so well. It was rough. And that was when I learned I was dairy sensitive. Which I still struggle and I still miss it to this day. I do occasionally cheat, usually when I'm stressed or depressed. And I usually pay for that too.
Mm.
It not having dairy made my asthma completely disappear.
Hmm.
It was
Yeah,
amazing.
that's a big one. Yeah.
So, and I also never went back to having caffeine. I do occasionally have a cup of decaf coffee, but I drink the Raza or water. I don't drink the caffeine like I
Okay.
used to.
Okay.
That was a very hard 4 days of giving it up.
I bet. So this is good. So you guys can hear kind of someone's experience who's already been through this, been there, done that, to kind of see some of the discoveries that you might have or some insights that you might have. I mean, again, everybody's different, but most adults are on some level lactose intolerant. They just don't realize it. So dairy is usually a pretty big eye opener. The dairy and the gluten are probably the two biggest eye openers for people in terms of things they didn't realize they were reacting to. They're like, "Oh, that's why I was always bloated." Me, I'm pretty sure it was all the tofu and stuff. So that's cool. Which has been a staple protein for me for a long time. I was eating it probably like, I don't know, 2, 3 times a week between tofu and tempeh. And I'm noticeably less bloated since this started, and so I'm thinking that's probably what the culprit was. So that's interesting.
Jean, can you talk about maybe some other possibilities if someone isn't getting that they want? Maybe things like SIBO or other conditions that after this is all done, they might want to look into.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, if you haven't, for example, if you have a lot of major digestive issues anyway, and you either they got worse through this or they aren't better, then yes, I would recommend some further workup for stuff like small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or again, maybe candida. We kind of talked about candida a little bit, because that just means you need to look a little deeper at what's going on. So again, if that's something that you have, if that's something you notice and you think that might be helpful, I can reach out to me. I can let you know how that would work, how to go about it. This is not something you can go to a GI doctor for. Most of them don't do SIBO testing. You go through a lab, which actually I can order. I can order those things for you guys, but or you could have, you might need to have your actual microbiome looked at. Like there's actually a stool test you can do that looks at all of your gut bacteria, your good guys, your bad guys, your funguses, your yeast, fungi, your molds, your, all that different stuff. There is a test to look at that to see if you might have some kind of dysbiosis, which is where you have an imbalance of your gut bacteria. So yeah, so if things are not improving at this stage, and or they get worse during the reintroduction thing, then yeah, I think that would be worth looking at. So please reach out to me. This is my area of expertise. This is my thing, so I can help guide you on that.
And the ranking of all those symptoms would be very helpful.
Yes. And again, everybody will have, depending on what's going on with you, your symptoms will be different, but testing is really the only way to know, unless you want to just keep troubleshooting kind of. I always recommend one of those two tests. That are usually going to be the most efficient way to diagnose something or figure out what's going on.
I really didn't understand what Connie said just a minute ago.
About the ranking or
I don't know. I didn't understand what you said.
Oh, she was talking about the ranking on the chart, where this thing here, where you're filling this out.
Oh,
That's what she was talking about, the ranking, like making sure that you rank
Yeah.
not just yes or no, but how frequent is it, how severe is it?
Yes, because if you are looking at something, further investigation, having this will help guide that investigation.
okay.
And Cindy, I did, Connie forwarded your email to me. I'm gonna respond to you in the email.
Okay.
So just so you know, or I am gonna address that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys. Anything else? Anybody have any other questions about the process or anything else I need to clarify before we let you go?
I know Cindy is about ready to introduce this.
You're kind of cutting out.
I know Cindy is getting ready to reintroduce. I don't know about everybody else.
Okay.
I'm ready to reintroduce. Today was 3 weeks.
Okay. She's but who's counting, right?
And I know I'm going to be going out of town for a week. Well, I got family going to the Outer Banks and asked me to go with them the week of June 2nd. So I'll still be doing this stuff. And I know I was thinking about, talking about going to the grocery store down there and what to get and all. And my son said, "Oh, forget that diet while you're down here." And I thought, I can't throw all this away.
Yeah, I mean, you'll just have to kind of explain to him, like, it's not a diet, it's kind of different. It's more of a diagnostic process, I mean, and just do your best, definitely at least keep note of how you feel if you kind of go off the wagon and eat something, out of the ordinary or out of the reintroduction, then make notes of that too, and how, because if you might do that and you feel fine. So at the very least, at least keep your records, and that way you still have something to go on.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. Okay, so go ahead. Were you going to say something? Okay, I thought somebody was saying something. So we will be off. We will take next week off, and then Connie, we meet one more time, correct? We meet on the 4th.
No, I had that today was it, but we can.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what, if you guys want to, because that will be about the end of your reintroduction period. It's probably going to take you close to 2 weeks to do all of those reintros. So that will be about that 2 weeks from to that Wednesday, 2 weeks from today. So if you guys get to that point and you want to have another little powwow, we can certainly do that. Just reach out either through the group chat, the group text, or the group email, and we can absolutely do that. That's not a problem. And again, feel free to reach out to me if I can help additionally with some of this GI testing, or getting into the specifics of, well, what do I do now? How do I eat moving forward? I'm always happy to help. So. But all right, well, if you guys don't have any other questions, we will go ahead and let y'all go. I hope everybody has a wonderful evening, and good luck with reintroductions.
All right, thank you for everything.
Thank
You're
you, and you
welcome.
too.
All right, have a good night.
You
Good
too.
night.
All right, bye.